So I'm just sitting down at my desk here. Today is the 2nd of Feb, so what I usually do is I'm going to work from the beginning of the month, but it's the 2nd, yesterday was the 1st, so that's sorted over there. Then my race date all the way at the end will be at the end of November. That is when the Ultra Trail Cape Town 100, 65, 35, I think there's a 21, all of those. So that's my race date. So I usually like working backwards from a race date, just so I kind of know that when I get into these last weeks or months, I'm kind of prepared, sorted and organized. So that just mentally for me and physically for my training and stuff just helps a hell of a lot. So working backwards from this 100 kilometer, you've got the time span over here of 10 months. Between now and the race date, which is a really long time, and I'm quite stoked that I've got so long. I will be filling, as you see later in the stage, races in between definitely, but this 100 I think will probably be my biggest race of the year, and then hopefully next year I plan on going a little bit further than that. But let's just do one thing at a time, and let's start with a 10-month plan. So what I want to do over here, I want to have a 2-week taper before the 100, and prior to that I'll probably have about a week of just cooling down and kind of minimizing my mileage and my elevation and getting ready for that 2 weeks taper. So all in all, this is about 3 weeks over here of kind of winding down, getting ready for the race, and just letting your body sort of repair and recover as much as it possibly can, but still retaining your overall fitness from the rest of the training plan. So prior to this taper week, what I do here is I have a session over here of a few weeks where I'm ramping up to, and this will be my highest week. Highest in regards to elevation and highest in regards to mileage. So this will be a few weeks over here with the highest amount of mileage per week and the highest amount of elevation per week, and then that slowly starts dropping off before the event. So what I plan on doing then is working the rest of from Feb all the way up until this point. What I plan on doing is working up the mileage and the elevation slowly with base runs and with actual workouts and stuff like that to get to this like highest point over here, and then from that you just taper down into the race. Now I must stress this plan is going to be a lot more simple. If I was making plans or if I was working with an individual with plans and stuff like that, it would be a lot more intense, but I don't want to make an hour video boring you guys on every single day or every single week and what it's going to look like. So that's why I'm kind of breaking it down enough for you guys to sit and say, well, this is kind of how I'm going to set up my planning. So my highest mileage week over here, that means that right now what I'm basically doing is I'm splitting these two in half, and this is going to be, I will call it my base miles. So we do work here in Cape Town in kilometers, but long distance mileage, base miles, all my riding indoors and stuff like that, a lot of it refers to mileage, so I kind of just refer to it in my plan. But it's basically your base kilometers or getting time on your legs. The same with cycling, the same with triathlon and stuff like that. You want your base miles to kind of get used to your running and slowly build up to a point where you can start gaining intensity and gaining in the elevation of your training. So with my base miles over here, yesterday I did a 15 kilometer, and that was a trail. And prior to that, before, I've done quite a few little road races. I've done like 12 to 15k road races, nothing big and hectic. So these base miles for me will just be working this 15 kilometer run, which is just my once a week run. During the week I have done say 2 times 10k's and maybe a 5k for time. Just varying the workouts, as I'll explain to you guys later. But so at the moment where I'm sitting now, I'm getting about 40k's a week in overall mileage, and with my base miles, that's pretty much between 40 and 45 to 50k's a week I'm pretty happy with. So I will continue doing this, and this long distance run that I do once a week, this trail run, which is a bit short this week I must say, but I'm going to slowly start increasing that. So every Saturday what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly start increasing this run. So next Saturday I might do a 20, then I might do like a 22, then I might do a 25, and by the time I hit kind of this point I'm going to be doing say a 30 or a 35 kilometer long distance run per week. and then my weekly mileage will maybe be 210Ks or something. So I'll be hitting, say, 55 kilometers plus per week. And that's kind of comfortably within my sort of base. It's quite chilled, it's quite manageable. I can work in my other workouts and stuff like that as well. And once I get to this point over here, the last few couple of months before my highest peak, I'll be more than fit and more than ready to tackle it. During this session, what I do is I ramp up my weekly mileage and my elevation. So elevation, mileage goes up. And it goes up all the way up to this point over here where I hit, say, whatever it is, I'll probably do a 65 kilometer long distance run. That'll be on a Saturday or something like that, and that'll kind of either be preferably maybe even in a race environment or even a training run or something like that, just to get a nice long distance, the longest training run of the season in during this period of time. And that will be prior to my taper weeks and just chilling out and recovering before the Ultra Trail Cape Town. So I'm working up to that 65k or 70k long run in a race. Usually, I mean, if you're training for 100 kilometers, that doesn't mean you have to run 100 kilometers every Saturday. That doesn't mean you ever have to run 100 kilometers outside the race and stuff. You can always go a little bit lower and you'll be absolutely fine for that on race day. So I'm going to aim for about 65 as max for my training run. And along with all the other base miles and all the other running and all the other strength and endurance training that I'm going to be doing, I'm confident that I'll be absolutely fine doing the 100 after that. So within this section over here and within this section over here, I plan on doing a few things. I plan on doing my distance runs. I plan on working on my weaknesses and my strengths. And excuse my writing, I hope you guys are just like following the audio instead of following the writing, but I will try and put something up eventually that is a little bit neater than this, but this just helps me categorize it as I'm kind of explaining it to you guys. With strengths and weaknesses, I will do my distance, my elevation. I will work on terrain. So that's basically just working on the terrain that your race is going to be over. So I've been doing quite a lot of stuff on fire roads at the moment. I've been doing quite a lot of road races and stuff. I want to get onto the Table Mountain course more often, get onto that rockier course more often, go up Platter Clip more often. So you're training your body on the terrain that you're actually going to be racing on, which is pretty important. If you spend the whole time doing all the distance, but you're not actually training, or at least trying to simulate the climbs and the type of course and the type of external factors that are going to be put onto you during race day, I think that's very important to kind of get ready for the race. So within that, I do nutrition and I do gear. So that's just testing out the gear that I'm going to be using for the race. That's gauging my nutrition throughout. So what nutrition did I need for this 65k? What nutrition did I need for some of these training runs? What gave me a sore stomach? When was I really dehydrated? How did I feel during recovery after the runs? Writing down what recovery I did during the runs and did after the runs, how I prepped for the runs. There are a whole lot of categories that goes off nutrition and gear that I kind of go into, and I can also go into that if you guys are interested at a later stage. I will probably make a different video on my race nutrition and also on my gear and stuff. So don't worry, that'll be a little bit more in depth. With nutrition, then I go to my different runs, and I'll just call that different runs. And that'll kind of be my distance stuff, so like my long distance weekend runs, which are going to be at a lower heart rate. It's going to be more chilled. It's not even going to be at race pace. It's just basically getting in that distance. So that's kind of what the 65 will be for me. The goal of the 65 will be the distance, and that is it. If I stop along the way and I buy water at shops and I chill out and I walk more than usual and stuff, that's absolutely fine for me. As long as I conquer that distance, then I'm absolutely fine. That is only for the long distance run, so don't get confused. That's not what you always want to do. That's just what I'm doing for my long distance runs, which usually take place for me over a weekend, so a Saturday or a Sunday, or both if I'm splitting it, doing a back-to-back run. With that, I do hill training. So that will be either intervals or complete hills, or like a complete course. So if I'm splitting that into intervals, I can go and I can find a road around here and I'll do interval training. Otherwise, I will split that separately into maybe a long run. So if I do like a 20 to a 30k, but it's all going to be based on hill training. So I'm going to pick a very hilly route, or I'm going to do laps of a very hilly route, and that'll get me used to climbing, and also most importantly, used to the downhill. And that's often something that's overlooked, especially from people getting into it. And I'm not saying I'm an expert, but I like doing research and I like setting out stuff like this, and it helps me a lot. And I'm hoping just even if one or two things on this page help you guys out, then my job here is done. So downhill is very important. Often people don't run downhill, they don't like running downhill, they slow down a lot downhill and they try to stop themselves. They get injured, they get sore legs, sore knees. You've got to train your downhill with your uphill. So if you've got a race like the Ultra Trail Cape Town, for instance, and once you get onto the top of Table Mountain and you go over Table Mountain, you've got Jeep track running pretty much all the way down until Constantia Neck. And because everyone's amped, they've done the Plutter Clip climb up Table Mountain, they've got a nice a point where you can get your nutrition and all your stuff filled on the top of Table Mountain. So you've got a bit of energy and stuff, you've got a large group, and you're running down this backside. You're going to be running, if you're not paying attention, faster than you usually run. And it's because it's a smooth, fast, flowy gravel road, you can pick up quite a lot of pace on the downhill. And if you're not used to running at that pace or at that speed downhill, that's when the leg cramps kick in, that's when the quads give up, and that's when you just absolutely gas yourself on this section of the course. And when you're coming back up past UCT and you're coming along this road on the top, above Platter Clip on the contour path and stuff, that's when you're going to feel the damage that you've done previously in the race. So you've got to pace yourself, and with that, I say pacing as well is something that you're going to want to pay attention to throughout these runs and throughout your build up to your main little, let's call it your long distance run, your 65 or whatever you're planning on doing before your main event. So with this, that's basically run-wise what I do. And then when it comes to working on my strengths and weaknesses, if say I struggle on the downhill, I will put in more workouts that focus on the downhill, and vice versa. If I'm doing pretty well on my road runs, which I do incorporate just because of the speed of the road runs, is obviously your terrain on road is going to be flat, it's going to be easier to run faster. You're going to be running 5 minutes a K or something on the road, whereas you're going to be stuck at 7.5, 8 to 9 minutes a K on a trail. So you've got to and obviously that's not every road pace, it's not every trail pace, it's all dependent on distance and other variables. But say for instance you're doing that, I like doing a combination of road sometimes and a combination of trail, because they give you a nice varied aspect, they keep your body guessing, they keep your legs guessing, and you're not then just going on road at the same steady pace throughout, and then on trail sometimes and you're undulating and you're walking a lot. Trail can be slower at points and stuff like that because it's obviously different terrain, and you can get used to going slowly, and then once you get to those open sections and you've got to run faster, you feel like you almost can't keep up. So I do vary my training when it comes to road and trail. I don't just stick to trail. You don't even have to go on road in that respect. If you do trail, just try do some like fire roads or some gravel roads and stuff like that. Stuff where your speed is going to be a little bit faster than say when you're doing your climbs and your more technical stuff. So with all of this stuff, there's a lot of other little tweaks and stuff that I go into it, but the main things with this is gym. And for me, gym is 2 sessions, say for instance a week. I do enjoy gym, I do enjoy weightlifting and stuff, and it is counterproductive because you're putting on muscle. If you are on the upper part of your body, you're having to carry that, and with your power versus your weight ratio, obviously you want to be as powerful as possible and weigh as least as possible so that you can carry that weight with the same amount of power throughout whatever distance or pace. So that, although counterproductive, I really enjoy gym and fitness and weightlifting, so I will continue doing that twice a week. Within this, I put in strength training for core and for legs. So my upper body and stuff, and it's good to do full body workouts as well, especially for running. Your core is rotating, your whole upper body is rotating when you're running, you're moving, you're carrying a heavy bag on your back. It's not just your legs that are working. So it is good to target your entire body. Your core kind of keeps your body up straight, so it is good to target your core when you're doing this sort of training. It's good to also target your legs, your glutes, and the rest of your body as well. So during the week, and I try not to do it, say, just the day before my long runs or my long Saturday runs, because if you go in and you have a pretty decent core and leg workout, you should feel it the next day, and you don't want to go then straight into your 65k long run the next day with sore legs. So I do try and get these in and around my smaller runs, so say my 10 or my 15k runs during the week. I put like 2 strength sessions. Also did a lot of triathlon training and stuff, so I will get in the pool as part of my strength training. I will get on the mountain bike. I've been riding quite a lot of mountain bike, so I'll get on the mountain bike and do that. It comes to your flat runs, so you do a lot of flat runs at like a higher pace. That will also go hand in hand with speed work, so you do like interval sort of training, but on a sort of a flat course around a block, say for a K, and you do 5 laps and you have 30 seconds walk break in between or something like that. So I do some speed work as well, and I also do that speed work incorporated in my hill intervals. So you try fast as possible up the hill for a certain amount of time or a certain amount of distance or something, and then after that you break or you run downhill, or you jog uphill. You try to go as fast as you can downhill. If you're training for downhill, you break and you repeat. So there are a lot of different ways to do that sort of interval training. That's kind of what I do. Also go to the field at the gym and I do sprint work and stuff like that, more kind of maximum power, maximum effort sort of stuff, and then jog it out. You also want to focus on that recovery. If you're doing your intervals, you want to carry on breathing, carry on running sometimes, just so that, say, when you're climbing Platter Clip or you're climbing even stuff that's a little bit steeper and sharper but shorter, that you can carry on jogging afterwards and your recovery is good. So you're recovering while you're running instead of being totally gassed and having to stop. So that's pretty much the way that I kind of focus my plan, and I will write it out for you guys and kind of just make it a little bit more readable, let's say, so that you guys can then get a gist of how I do it. But hopefully just explaining this stuff kind of makes sense to you guys. And I actually wrote it out earlier. Here's a page here that I can just leave up on the screen, and that's basically just today, the UCT weekend. It's a 2 weeks taper, 1 week leading into it, a peak week. So my peak weeks with my race, so say my 65 kilometer race will be around about there. My build up towards that race and towards the maximum amount of elevation and distance I'm doing per week, then base miles over here, which I'm basically in at the moment. So that's basically what it looks like. The only thing I forgot to tell you guys is within here, let's write it over here, there will be races. So my 65k will either be a race or will be, if there are no races kind of around this time of year that I want to do before this Ultra Trail Cape Town, I will be doing that by myself on the mountains here, which will also be rad. But there are other races in between that I will be doing along the way. There's a race calendar you guys can get online if you are in Cape Town. You can check up all the trail races, their trail series, their weekend races. They're from anything from 15 to 100, 165k races all around the country. So I'll be adding what I can in along the way as I kind of build up. And because I've kind of done this before and I've just run the 65 last year, my base miles and my build up is kind of there already. So I wouldn't mind doing, say, a 42 kilometer in the next sort of month, and then I'll be straight into my build up. For you guys that are starting from the beginning, get those base miles. If you're doing, say, the 65 all the way down over here, then you want to get a certain amount of base miles. You want to build. You don't just want to go into running a few 5Ks a week and then all of a sudden you're running 50 to 60 kilometers on average per week. Shin splints start popping up, injuries, sore knees, all that sort of stuff, plantar fasciitis, you name it. it starts popping up if you go too hard, too fast, and you don't just build into it. So base miles are super important. If there's anything I've left out, I apologize for it, but this is the Ultra Trail Cape Town 100k training plan, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. It was a lot different to what it usually is. Usually walking around or usually talking to camera. I've got the whiteboard behind me, but I thought that since this is a more structured training plan for me, and I kind of wanted to just go through quickly some of the points and some of the things that I do when I'm putting together a plan, I thought I'd kind of sit down in a more formal environment and do this. This will probably be the last time that I do this for a while. The next time I see you guys, I'll take you out, take you for a run here in Cape Town, and yeah, just give you my thoughts along as I go. Hope you guys are well. Hope you guys have had some good workouts, some good runs over the weekend, and I'll catch you guys next week.